All right. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Let's wait for the screen. It's 15 seconds. Come on, YouTube. I know you get like a 30-second delay on this thing, so we gotta wait. Coming along. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me get. Oh, we got an ad. Gotta have that first. Three, two, one. Skip. Close. Oh, great. Now we got this stupid. Hang on, I gotta get rid of this thing now if I can. All right, let's see if we get that working. That'll be better. All right. Good evening, snowmen and snow maidens. Uh, for the few of us that still have power and haven't been running around the house trying to deal with frozen pipes or shovel or whatever, happy Saturday night. I'm still at the point, we still have here probably another 24 hours till we get whacked. And we're supposed to get 3 to 5 inches here, last I saw, which won't be the most snow we've gotten here since I've been in Tennessee. And this is our fifth winter here. Uh, we did have one snowfall that was 6 inches, but it'll probably be enough to shut everything down here for the day. I mean, schools, of course, a lot of businesses will probably close, and it depends on what we get in the way of ice. But hey, it's winter. I still, and maybe you guys will agree with me, maybe you'll disagree, but it still amazes me that we get storms like this and the media and people act like it's the end of the world, like, oh my God, we're never going to get dug out. The world's stopping. It's winter in the Rocky Mountains, in the Midwest, in the Great Plains, in New England, even down here, okay? I mean, I can still remember the blizzard of 78. I can still remember growing up in both Chicago and in Michigan, and there was snow on the ground all winter. Okay. Even 10 years ago when I was up in New Hampshire, I mean, I remember snow, and those of you guys that live up here, up in New England know what I'm talking about with this. There's nowhere to put the snow, so it's piled up 15, 18 feet high right to the corner of a parking lot. So, you've almost got to get your car out into traffic to see if you can get into traffic. And it's like, we're going to get a foot of snow. And it's like, the world's coming to an end. I'm like, guys, grow a pair, deal with it. It's, these days people have snow blowers and, snow plows. And you go back 50 years ago and you had a shovel and rear wheel drive cars. I mean, that was about it. There weren't SUVs. And, you had a station wagon that was rear wheel drive. Maybe the odd person had a four-wheel drive truck or something, or a Jeep, but there weren't a whole lot of people. Now, 99% of the stuff on the road, well, let's not say that much. Let's say 90% of the stuff on the road is either four-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. You know, it's just silly, And then you hear I get a kick out of the defund the policers today. This is kind of interesting. I don't know if any of you guys saw the video that came out overnight about the female Vermont cop that rescued a 7-year-old or 8-year-old girl who was out walking on a pond and the ice cracked and she fell in. And the cop was like a minute away when somebody called 911. And here it is, Vermont, it's cold, okay, semi-frozen pond. And this cop gets out of her car, runs down there, jumps in the water cold, okay, just clothed. It's not like she's putting on a scuba suit or something to stay warm, and rescued the girl. You hear all the stories about people in Iowa, people in Illinois, and, cars stranded on the side of the road. The tow companies aren't coming to get people because they're so buried. And the cops are going up and down the road saying, abandon your car, wait till the weather breaks, get in, I'll get you home. But no, we need to defund the police because they aren't doing anything good. Okay. And I know there's preppers out there that think we need to defund the police. Okay. Fine. Whatever. You know, it, I believe what you want. Okay. The only people that want to defund the police are the criminals. So, if you want to defund the police, I guess you're either a pedophile or a drug addict, or a Democrat. But it's just amazing to me that common sense, morality, decency has left the building. But it is what it is. So. And then, if you guys saw what went down maybe about an hour ago, I guess there's somewhat of a siege on the White House tonight. You have a whole bunch of pro-Yemeni protesters out there trying to break down the security fence that's around the White House. It's probably be a mostly peaceful protest. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's video of that. Yemeni flags and Palestinian flags and everything like that flying all over the place as they're trying to push over the fence. So, and I have not heard if they've breached it yet. But yeah, wonder how many of those people wind up spending 3 years in jail without any charges filed against them. Probably none. They'll probably all file a class action suit against the fence company and win. I got hurt. Oh, well. Let us give you about $15 million from the taxpayers, So, yeah. So, yeah, there's the excitements going on today. Waiting to find some more details on some other stuff that I'm working on for tomorrow. But, yeah, that was about it. And other than that, Mrs. P and I are just getting ready to kind of say, okay, we're not leaving the house because as of right now, it's below 32. So, we're not supposed to get above freezing here again until Thursday, I think. And then we have another storm coming in, guys. If you guys haven't noticed, I'm assuming this is not only here, but I think we're supposed to be up here, I think to like the 50s on Thursday. Okay, I think the high is 51 and the low is supposed to be 40 or something like that on Thursday. So whoosh, temperatures. But by Saturday of next week, we're supposed to be down with a low of, I think, 3 or 5 again, something like that, or maybe a day or two off, somewhere thereabouts. But yeah, we got another storm coming in. So, yeah. So don't think this is our one and done for the winter. It's January. We got a while to go yet. And no, I did not get out and plant my cabbage. I'm waiting a week until the weather breaks a little bit, because even my little greenhouse, I'm not going to bother paying the electric bill for that thing to heat when it's 3 degrees outside and I'm trying to get that up to 70. So no, just not going to happen. I'll wait a week. It's not going to delay me too much. So yeah, so that's the craziness for the evening here. But like I said, we're just kind of getting ready to just stay in the house, and our extent of going outside for the next couple of days will be to walk the dogs. And that'll be about it. Oh, and get the Christmas ornament boxes in so we can finally take down our Christmas tree, because we waited till after Russian Christmas and Russian New Year. So that was it. So now we can take down our tree. So that was it. All right, so let's get into Q&A tonight, guys. As per normal, if you've got questions for me, please put them in all caps, just like every other YouTube channel. Makes it easier for me to go through the chat room. Makes it a little bit faster, at least. The only thing I do ask is, well, do require, is that everybody treat each other in here with dignity and respect. If you want to be an asshole, please leave. If you don't want to leave on your own, we'll gladly do it for you. That's what the moderators are there for. And if you got rude comments to make to me, don't worry, I'll never see them, because the mods have such a quick trigger finger, I don't even get to see them. So if you got something nasty to say to me, email me. I can delete it there. All right, let's get into Q&A here, and I'm going to get up to the top and see what you guys got in the way of questions, comments, or whatever. It always gets interesting. Heather Bray grew up in the South. Laugh at anyone up north here that freaks out that it's going to snow. Yeah, I mean, when it snows down here, down south, and I mean, I lived in Texas for a while, and about 8 years. You know, I get it. People aren't used to driving in ice and snow and things like that down south. I mean, I'm out of practice. I mean, I between Chicago, Indiana, New England, Utah. I mean, I've lived probably the better part of 40 years of my life in northern climates. Sometime in Arizona, sometime in Texas, down here now. But I'm out of practice, and so I don't expect everybody around here to know how to do it either. But when you've got people up north that are going, it snowed, what are we gonna do? I'm like, Jesus Christ, you get this every winter. It's like, what do you do? Hibernate from November to March? All right. Broken Dolly, what is the worst is the partial thaw and then the refreeze. Yes, okay. That when you get that black ice on the road, that's I remember driving for Christmas one time between Fort Wayne and Chicago, going to see family. And I think we're somewhere, for those of you who live up here, you'll know this, I-30, or not I-30, but Highway 30. And we're in between Warsaw and Valparaiso. And we hit a patch of black ice. And it was just slide, 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 slide. And I wasn't going fast or anything like that. And I eventually got the car off into some snow and was able to regain control. But it was like, all of a sudden, that 3-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive, it usually took us about 8 hours to get to Chicago that day. Stephen, thank you for the super chat. You said, thank you for all you do. Central Virginia here. When do I start seed planting? It depends on the plant. All of them are different. We talked about this the other day. For me, where I am here, I will start my brassicas, for me this year it'll be cabbage and broccoli. I'll be starting those inside next weekend, weather permitting. Okay. But things like tomatoes or peppers, I'm not starting those for months. So it all depends on what plant. You got to know what climate. Brassicas like colder weather. I mean, I'll plant my cabbages and my broccoli out in the garden the beginning of March, and they'll be fine. I'll be harvesting those about the same time that I'm putting my tomato seedlings in the ground. So yeah, you've got to know. You can't. Everything doesn't get planted in the spring. That's the biggest misnomer with things people think about gardening. It's like, oh well, it's April 15th. It's time to plant everything. No, that's not how nature works. So, but this time of year for me, okay, and this is from me with my setup, knowing my personal climate right here, the best time for me to plant my brassicas is mid-January. Okay. Happy Gardener. Yeah, I remember some idiot that drove a VW across the Ohio River in Cincinnati that winter 77, 78. I could see people doing that. I mean, every year up in Minnesota, you always hear the stories of, the guys that go ice fishing on, Minnetonka or whatever. And every year there's a truck or two that goes through the ice. Somebody found a weak spot or whatever. And, if they ever drained the lake, you'd probably find hundreds of trucks at the bottom of the lake, bottoms of lakes in Minnesota. Okay. Angelia Taylor says school is closed Monday for MLK Day. Okay, that'll work. That makes life easier for everybody. Probably by accident a good thing. Maureen Maizala, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. 8.5 inches yesterday in Illinois, below zero highs for Monday and Tuesday. I did not get a chance to talk to my cousin today to see what they got. I figure I'll probably try to call her tomorrow and see what they got up in the suburbs of Chicago. But hopefully they're just hanging out in the house too. RLRL, I see this one. Blizzard of 78, snow drifted over our entire house. I'll give you another story that I remember. Again, this was me living in Chicago. And one of my friends lived in basically, it was a one-story house. Okay. And if you guys remember, what we called were rug sleds. Okay. They were literally a sheet of plastic with two handles cut out the front. That was it. Okay. And we used to love playing on those. Parents would shovel the snow and we'd have a hill and we'd go down. I mean, mind you, I'm probably 8. But Blizzard of 78, we were able to go on the top of his roof and slide all the way down through the front yard because there was snow all the way up to the roof line. Yes, I remember that. We had more fun as kids, I will tell you that, than the kids have these days, that's for sure. Because we actually didn't sit in front of a computer or a phone all day. Farm Ranch Homestead, just for laughs, what doth it take to think the unthinkable? An iceberg. I don't get it. Sorry. Hopefully somebody else does. I don't. Right over my head. Gene Blair, Blizzard of 78. We had 2 inches of the antenna on our Mustang above the snow line. Yeah, I mean, again, I remember, I've mentioned this before, we had one person in the neighborhood who had a snowmobile, and literally they were making runs back and forth to the grocery store if somebody needed milk or eggs or cheese or whatever. I don't know, the hardware store, whatever. Again, I was a kid, so I don't remember exactly what they were doing. But cars weren't going anywhere. Heather Bray, you never hear good things that cops do, only the bad. Ain't that the truth? And that's the thing. And you don't hear that much bad stuff. Most of the bad stuff is some idiot going, racism, racism, racism. I tried to break into this store and the cop stopped me. He's violating my civil rights. Get bent. Okay. Yeah, Suburban Hillbilly. I was talking to Mrs. P about this today. Imagine getting stranded in a winter storm in an EV. Okay. I can't imagine anybody, I take it back. I can't imagine anybody who isn't a liberal who owns an EV that goes, you know what? It's 2 degrees outside. Let's go see if my battery operated car works. But I mean, what do you hear all the stories? What is it? The Ford Lightning, I think, is the pickup truck. I think that's what they call it. That has a range of 300 miles on a charge, but if the temperature is below freezing, that range on a full charge goes down to 100 miles. I get 600 miles to a tank out of my truck. Warm weather or cold weather, So, yeah, I'm okay. No, you will never see me buy an EV. Only idiots own those. It'd kind of be like Hertz Rent-A-Car just said, you know what? We're getting rid of the 20,000 EVs we have and replacing them with gas-powered cars because nobody wants to rent an EV. I saw a story a few days ago about a guy who took a trip from Chicago to New York and wanted to test his Tesla, right? He had to stop to charge it 8 times. It's 800 miles from New York to Chicago. Why do you have to do it? Well, he had to drive out of his way a bunch of times to find a charging station, okay? Because it's not like you can just go to every gas station that there's, one every couple of miles in most places east of the Mississippi. You had to go find one. So the drive that should have taken him, I think they said 12 hours, took him 16. He had to stop 8 times to charge. I could drive from Chicago to New York stopping once for gas. And oh, gee, it'll take me 10 minutes, not 40 each time I got to charge up. If using a fast charge Tesla, otherwise sitting there for 3 hours. Maureen again says, I survived the blizzards in 67 and 78 in Chicago. I was only a year old in 67, so I'm not going to remember that one. Let's see. Heather Bray, the raid on the White House is all Trump's fault. Yeah, that's it. I see the LOL in there, so yes, I know you're joking. They'll try and blame him. It's probably Trump's fault that it snowed. I mean, this is it. So, North of the 52nd, I'll agree with you here. Most local police need a raise, grossly underpaid. The caveat to that is how do they get the raise? It comes out of your property taxes, which I know we have all the people all the time. You don't own your house, you still have to pay property taxes. Yeah, we pay property taxes, so we have a police department, so we have a fire department, so we have street lights. I mean, I've said this many times. I know there's people that disagree with me. I don't mind paying my property taxes. Okay. I know where it's going. That money actually is spent on something that's worthwhile. You know, granted, I don't have kids in school, but it pays for the schools. As effed up as the teachers union is, okay, at least we have schools they're going to. You know, the reason it's screwed up is because the public doesn't get involved in the school board meetings and say, no, you're not teaching my kids about DEI. No, you're not teaching my kids that the rainbow flag takes precedence over the United States flag. Not, none of that. The people don't stand their ground. Oh, I'm too busy. I mean, I've got to check my Facebook page, rather than get involved. That's the problem. G2, thank you for the super chat. You say, thank you, pinball community, for all the prayers for my sister and her cancer. Doc got it out. All right. Lymph nodes are clear. Chemo starts January 31st. That is awesome news. Cool. Glad. I think I speak for all of us when I think we can all say, thank God that your sister's okay. Benjamin Brewer 25. Do I think my pond could freeze? Oh, absolutely. It's frozen many times. It'll maybe freeze the top on the inch or an inch on the top or something. It's not like I'd go ice skating on it or it's going to freeze all the way to the bottom and kill the fish. That's not going to happen. But I've had surface ice on it many times before. It's not a big deal. But it won't be cold. It'll be cold here, but not enough it's not going to be cold long enough to freeze of any depth. Whoops. As we shot to the bottom there as soon as I started to read Von Mousetrap's comment. So let's see if I can find it. Or if I get a chance to. Nope. Can't get that far. Rick's Corner. Hey, Pinball, here in Freeland, Michigan. Woke up to 7 inches, waited 2 hours, and went and picked up eggs. There you go. 7 inches. I don't think the eggs were that important, but why'd you wait 2 hours? Wait till it plowed the roads a little, maybe? David Galifaro, where do I think silver and gold are going this year? My guess is gold will probably be somewhere around 2,400. Silver might get to 28. It's not going to be any stellar year, I don't think. Okay, and again, there's so many caveats. All the stories about the economy imploding in the first or second or third quarter. I mean, if that happens, all bets are off. But I think if we're in I hate to use the word normal, but if we're in current market conditions, I think you could probably see a 20% increase in both silver and gold this year. That's my estimate for how I'm preparing myself. Let's put it that way. Smoke and Swamp Outdoors. What is my personal prepping goal for the year? Thank you for everything. I don't really have them. I don't set goals like that. I mean, it's not like, oh, gee, I've got to add another 50 pounds of rice or something. I don't, I know what I have. I can what I have. Okay. I mean, this is it. I mean, I plan my garden for what I can for the year. I keep the freezers full. You guys know I'm still working on my ham license. But I mean, honestly, I'm kind of in maintenance mode, gathering more, learning more, but as for having goals, I really don't have them. I mean, I can't, they're not quantifiable, let's put it that way. Deborah Jones, my seed starting cabbage yet. I talked about that at the top. I'm waiting for this cold spell to go through. I'll probably start them now next weekend. Dale from Ohio, what's my take on Governor Abbott booting out the Border Patrol recently? Good. Let the National Guard control that. It was an Eagle Pass controlling that area. Because the Border Patrol, it's not that the Border Patrol doesn't want to do their job, their hands are tied. Okay, they're not allowed to. They're taking these guys off the border to apprehend and turning them into paper processors. You know, and that's not what these guys' job is. So, you know, if that's what they've got to do, if the federal government's going to tell them you're going to be a paper processor, the state, okay, National Guard is state level, not federal, okay, the state says, good, you go patrol the border. Good. You know, I love listening to all these stories today about, you know, Chicago and Denver coming. Abbott's got to stop sending. We've got blizzards coming in here. We can't do anything about the immigrants and all this sort of stuff, the illegals. And I'm like, nor can Texas do anything about them. It's gonna be freaking cold there too. You know, I'm sorry. It's 78 degrees in Guatemala. If you didn't want to be in the cold, you shouldn't have come here in the first place. I don't give a rat's ass. Texas is not a sanctuary state. Therefore, the taxpayers should not have to pay for it because the taxpayers didn't want it. Colorado, you wanted to be a sanctuary state. Illinois, you wanted to be a sanctuary state. You start paying for it. You know, it's none of this, look at how great we are. We're so open-minded as long as you pay for it. No, sorry. Margaret Thatcher. You know, socialism stops working when you run out of other people's money. Sunset, how do I feed the fish in the pond if it's frozen over? We don't feed the fish that much in the winter. I mean, not that fish hibernate, but their metabolism will really slow down because the water's cold. And so you don't want to feed them that much because basically the food will just rot. They're not going to eat that much, and so no need to be putting it in there. You know, fish survive in lakes and everywhere, you know, all winter. Like I said, you know, think of Lake Superior, Lake Minnetonka, any lake in Chicago or Indiana or Michigan, they all freeze. The fish survive. Okay, so that's it. John, pinball. Do I have any working pinball machines or two lying around? If so, can you show? No, that's not. That's the name of the channel has nothing to do with the game of pinball. So, okay. Original one shot, one kill. Pinball. What do you expect to trigger World War III first? First, I should say. What's going on with the Middle East? And this is what I was talking about, is waiting for more information. The IDF has apparently uncovered plans that Hezbollah is trying to organize a worldwide terrorist strike. That would start World War III, because Mrs. P and I were talking about this evening. You know, if that happened, if we had another 9/11 type situation, boy, I'll tell you, the last place I'd want to be living is Dearborn, Michigan. Okay, because the world's changed a little bit since 2001. We're a little more trigger happy. And yeah, if that happens again, it's not going to be, I don't think, looks out of the corner of your eye. That's going to happen. I think that could easily be a start. If China goes into Taiwan, I mean, did you catch Biden's deal on Taiwan today? They had their elections, and Saturday, okay, yesterday for them, but still Saturday for us here. And of course, all the leaders of the world were congratulating the winner of the election. And then Joe has got to come out and say, we don't support Taiwan being separate from mainland China. Really, Joe? It's interesting. You might want to tell the rest of the country that, you know, that you've changed our longstanding policy that we acknowledge the one party or one China party, but we've always considered Taiwan a sovereign nation. You might want to tell the rest of, Congress maybe that we've changed our policy that stood for 50 some odd years that now we do not consider Taiwan sovereign. Just let you know. That could do it too. But of course, Joe's got to make sure that the paychecks keep coming in from Beijing. Frida Seckinger, am I being too radical to ask this? If there will be a vast number of deaths soon after SHTF, what will happen with all the bodies? No way we can afford funerals or caskets. No, that's what's called, like any other war. You're going to have a ditch and a bulldozer. That's it. Okay, you're going to have mass graves, just like every other time in every other war in the history of the world. Silvergram, thank you for the super chat. Did I hear about the Yemeni nationals and Palestinians trying to breach the White House? It's supposedly happening right now. I talked about it about 15 minutes ago. Yes. So, let's see. Happy Canner, Pinball, comments on Democrat bill to outlaw militias. Yeah, I saw that maybe a half an hour before we came on. And I get a kick out of how, was it Jamie Raskin and Ed Markey were the two sponsors of this bill, saying that any more than 3 people could not have, provided there was some sort of hierarchy, chain of command of some sort, were not allowed to train to do anything like neighborhood watch or security or anything like this, right? And I loved how they mentioned the 3%ers and the Proud Boys, and I can't remember who they named one other group, but they didn't mention BLM or Antifa or any of the radical left-wing groups. I got a kick out of that. And again, this is another one. Go read the Second Amendment. This bill is trying to take out the well-regulated militia part of the Second Amendment. No, you can't do that. Student of life, live, and up. Thank you for the super sticker, I think it was. Appreciate that. I didn't see a comment, so. All right, let's see. Hillbilly, howdy pinball. Can strawberries handle the freeze? Should I cover them? Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't be growing at this point. I don't know where you are. I mean, you don't need to cover them or anything like that. As long as you have established roots in there, they'll come back in the spring. No big deal. Original one shot, one kill again. Pinball, do I think the November election will actually take place or Black Flag event before that? Black Swan event, I'm assuming. I'm still of the belief that it will happen. And I know there's a whole bunch of people out there that don't think it will. And I respect that, okay? There's a whole bunch of people out there that think that the earth is flat. There's a whole bunch of people that think the CIA took down the Twin Towers too, okay? That's fine. That's your opinion. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you. I still, like I said, World War I, World War II did not stop elections, anything. Even the Civil War didn't stop elections. I'm still going to say it'll happen, but again, just like the price of gold and silver, who knows what happens? I mean, if we are in a full-blown civil war, which is possible in this country, and it ain't going to be a north and south or east and west. It's going to be a red and blue war. So I mean, there is going to be no front, if you will. It's going to be guerrilla war everywhere. That could stop it. But if somebody put a gun to my head and said yes or no, do they happen? I'm going to say yes. Let's see. Citispell, that's an interesting question. What is my preferred long-term food? Okay. I I guess more specifically, I mean, my favorite thing to eat, or what I, if there was only one thing I could keep, what I do. If anything, the absolute number one thing that I think people should have as much of as possible is beans. Okay, because it's a good vitamin source and it's a good protein source. Sure, it's not going to be the starches and everything else that you need. It's not going to have vitamin C, or anything like that. But the one thing you're going to need more than anything else is the calories and the proteins. And the beans can provide you with that. So if I'm talking about preferred of what I want to eat for a long-term food, if I was only allowed to eat one thing that I've got stored, give me Chef Boyardee ravioli. That's easy. Okay, easy to eat and whole 9 yards. So I don't know. That just trying to think, but that would probably be something because it's a little more complex than what's in it. Comet Moon, Pinball, would it be okay to go ahead and plant spinach inside? Central Ohio is my election. You can grow spinach inside all the way because you're not looking for something that's going to fruit. All right. So, I mean, because you're growing just leafy greens, you can just grow your spinach right in a pot in the windowsill. You could grow it in a basement under just white lights. You don't even need the full spectrum lights because there's no fruiting to it. Yeah, I mean, spinach is something that you can grow indoor all the time. Mississippi Soldier, I saw the super sticker there. There it is. Yeah, thank you for the super chat. I'm gonna leave that question alone, though. It's a topic that YouTube is kind of a little catchy about right now with the anti-Semitism running around. So I'm going to leave that one alone just to stay out of trouble. But, we talked a little bit about that on Tuesday, and I got my hand slapped a little bit for that one. So, let's see. Original One Shot, One Kill again. Did I hear that the Treasury Department is going to announce a digital dollar, or is that BS? Well, if they're going to do it, that's probably, let's put it this way. I'd almost guarantee that's BS because I have not seen that in some 40 or 50 news sources I look at, both left and right. So my guess is that some YouTuber making up crap, or TikTok or Instagram or something like that. I haven't heard a peep about a digital dollar being announced. Pamela Derby, blizzard of 78. The Ohio River froze over. People were walking and driving across it from Kentucky to Ohio. What was the town I lived in? I lived in Florence, and Covington, I think, was the other one that I'd lived. Was it Covington? I remember it was up the road. I lived in Florence for a while, and then I worked. I want to say it's Covington was the name of the town. I mean, I'm going back 30 years here. But yeah, I can remember going across the bridge. Original One Shot, One Kill. Thank you for the super chat. What dog food preps do I have for Copper and Daphne? Another great life. As for dog food, I did a video on how to make dog food. It's in the Cooking with Mrs. Pinball one. It's called Feeding Fido. But yeah, I mean, rice, any sorts of meats, chicken, beef, whatever you got in there. I mean, mix this together. Blueberries, pumpkin, butternut squash, anything like that. Sweet potatoes. That's what you're going to be using for dog food. Okay. And as much as people are like, well, you're not going to feed your dog, it's taking food out of your mouth. Your dog is going to be a very important prep to you, because y'all know as well as I do, dogs hear stuff long before we do. I mean, I get a kick out of the dogs know the sound of the UPS truck around here. I could be sitting on the front porch with them. They will start barking, and I know the UPS truck bark. It's a specific bark they have. The truck won't even be, I can't even see the truck up the street. They'll start barking, and 10 seconds later, I'll see the truck at the far end of the street. you know. So yeah, they're going to tell you a lot more guard duty, you know. If a dog, any dog will do this too, you know, start looking, sniffing, ears up, tail up, barking in the middle of the night, they can see and hear stuff that you and I aren't going to. That having your dog taken care of is going to be very important. Let's see. Caveman looks, his biggest snow event in your area that I live in was in 1993, modern history. Okay, obviously I wasn't here then. So where was I in 93? 93, where was I in 93? 93, I was in Kentucky. Let's see. Dawn I 2023. Unfortunately, we're under a wind chill warning until Tuesday. Temperature will be 40 below. Okay, I was looking for PBJ tonight and I saw Fort Wayne is going to be like 25 below wind chill. I'm like, stay home. Heather Bray, thoughts on hybrid cars? Okay, half good, half bad. All right, at least you've got a gas motor, okay, to get you out of trouble. Robert, EV military tanks. There you go. I could just see that. You have M88s running around with generators on them to charge the tank in battle. James Vander, how about EV F-35s? There you go. God. All right. Trucker Hershey says Goldbacks. I got into a conversation with somebody on that one yesterday on one of these wannabe prepper channels, I guess, if you will. You know, that prepper channel, he's a wannabe blogger. One of the ones I have zero respect for, Mike Adams. And he was talking about all the benefits of Goldbacks. And I'm like, okay, do the math on a Goldback. You're paying a little more than $3,000 an ounce for the gold and Goldbacks. Okay? People bitch about the premiums. Okay? You're paying a 50% premium on an ounce of gold right now to buy Goldbacks. Okay? You know, leave the monopoly money to the fools, buy the physical stuff. Donna D, 180,000 EV school buses are going to be built, according to Camel Toe. Yeah, right. And 179,999 of them will be in for repairs in December, January, February, and March. And the parents will all be screaming, going, why do we have to drive our kids to the schools? And because they won't work in the cold. You know, I could see around here, for example, there's one high school in my county. Okay, that's it. One. The county's got 19,000 people in it. County's still a decent sized county. From my house to the high school is a half an hour drive. There is a school bus that comes in here. Okay, I see it maybe about a quarter of a mile from the house. See it around 10 in the morning. It picks up a couple of kids, I guess. So it's a half an hour to get here and a half an hour to get back. Granted, it's got to go through other areas in the peninsula here and pick up other kids. In cold weather, it's not going to last that trip. So, oh, great, we can't get the bus out to pick up your kids. What's the freaking point? Deborah Jones says in 78, the police pulled our neighbor on a sled 4 blocks to the rescue squad. There you go. Carl Lynn, where is the 6-cylinder that got 100 plus miles a gallon back in 1978? Yeah, all those pipe dreams that they have, you know, it's like they come up with the number. Well, we're going to mandate that the car makers make a car that goes 50 miles to the gallon, you know, by 2026. The car makers go, okay, here's the car. And the consumers go, we don't want the car. Nobody buys the car, you know. I mean, I still get a kick out of every time I drive down the road and I see a smart car. And I'm driving by in an F-150. I'm like, dude, don't get close to me because all you are is a speed bump as far as I'm concerned. Debs, what about EV bikes? Yeah, I mean, and you've seen I've reviewed a couple of them. They're a useful, but not they're a useful item, but I certainly wouldn't call them a necessity. Okay. Uh, but I'm not going to go out and ride a bike in this weather. You know, it's nice in the summer. It's decent to be able to move small things, if you will. But if you're worried about a car on snow and ice, try balancing on a bike. It's not going to work too well. Okay. Uh, sure. Could I use it if I wanted to go down to the lake and go fishing and maybe carry a tackle box and, uh, everything? Sure. Works good for something like that, so I don't have to carry everything. I don't have to go that far. Could I put more, uh, tie like a sled trailer to it or something, a small trailer to it, even something that you make? Yeah. And, you could haul more firewood or something, yeah, it's got its uses, but it's not going to be a primary source of transportation. I mean, the things don't have that much range. I mean, we tested them, and even though they claim, 50, 60 miles, we got about 35 out of them. Okay. So it's okay. But again, I'll use this with generator power, which is how you may wind up getting it. Okay. I got other uses for electricity that are going to take much higher priority than an e-bike. So, Chantel Hale says snowmobiles were taking nurses and CNAs to work as well. Yeah. Pam Fleury, can I talk about the tunnels in New York City? No, I really can't. That was what I got my hand slapped for on Tuesday. So, I made a couple of comments and I got some feedback, from our hosts. Let's put it that way. Yeah, Broken Dolly. Here's a real good point. Can you imagine the EV batteries exposed to all that salt water splashing up from the roads? That's a really good point. Corrosion, maybe? Moving on along here. As soon as we found one, it shot to the bottom on me. Okay, hang on. Okay. Dan Rose, Mr. Pinball, when New York City housed illegals in schools, the kids aren't getting brainwashed. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. They're telling the kids to go remote learn so they can use the schools for illegals. And I'm like, no. Property tax dollars paid for those schools for our kids to learn, not for Juan and Maria to have some place to sleep. I'm sorry, I don't care. It's 2 degrees outside. Juan and Maria, you decided you wanted to live in the United States, go sleep in a box under an overpass. That's because you don't deserve anything. This isn't the land of you get whatever the hell you want. All these people, we don't want to work. We just want all the free stuff you were promised. I didn't promise you anything, so you ain't getting anything from me. Nancy Coate, love my shirt. Does Mrs. P pick out my clothes? She will buy stuff for me occasionally. Most of it I don't like. Just like when I buy stuff for her occasionally, most of it she doesn't like. But actually, I think she did pick this one out. So, but yeah, she picks out sweaters for me. So I'm like, that's god awful. No, Jesse Moya, hi Pinball from South Texas. Love you down here. ERCOT giving warnings already. Exactly. What were we talking about that Tuesday this week or whatever? Get ready, Texas. I was talking about what was going on. That Texas, that they were saying, I think it was on Tuesday, that for this storm, that come Monday, they were going to exceed the all-time record for kilowatt usage by like 30%. But don't worry, we've got it under control. 30% more power needed than you've ever had to produce in a day, but don't worry, you got it under control, right? Okay. Yeah, if I'm living in Texas, I'm expecting the power to be out tomorrow. Debs, are carrots a goal this year? Yes, carrots are a goal every year. What are these? I mean, last year they were better, okay? But I want carrots, inch around, inch and a half around carrots, not these twigs that I had last year. Gene Blair, did I hear Gonzalo Lira died in a Ukraine prison? Yeah, I saw that's been all over the news here for the last day and a half. Sarah say, do I think they'll run Mike Obama for 2024? No, I think that's just all pipe dream and clickbait. I don't think that's going to happen at all. Ann Palmer, my parents get a letter every Monday. They know exactly what I'm teaching. Not all schools are liberal. Use emergency preparedness to teach prepping and also make pinball seat toilet paper roll. I understand. Okay. It's no different than somebody saying California is a blue state. Okay. It does not mean every single person in California is a Democrat. Just like I know every teacher is not a piece of shit liberal. I get that. Okay. Every millennial is not lazy. But you being in the profession, you understand that probably 80% of your peers have completely lost their mind. Okay. There are good teachers out there. I know that for a fact. Okay. They are the exception, though, not the rule. And that's the part that sucks. Eledwin, I think, Mayor, if the government shuts down, can we lock some office doors? Wouldn't that be nice? The problem is our illustrious Speaker of the House, who was turning into one hell of a chameleon, didn't even put government shutdown on the table this time. He just caved to the Democrats' continuing resolution again. So it means we get more and more and more of Nancy Pelosi's budget. Almost 2 years after the Democrats lost the House, they're still running the budget. And Johnson every once in a while does something that's like, okay, you're doing really well. And then he does something like this. I mean, the House controls the purse. The Republicans control the House. Tell the Senate to go pound sand. You ain't getting a penny for Ukraine until the border's closed. Period. Shut it down. The people, the overwhelming majority of the country, the people in the country have said, shut it down. We're not doing this anymore. And Congress won't listen. We are 335 million people, and 535 people think they have all the control. Do the math, okay? I mean, there's less people in Congress than there are in Sharp's Chapel. And yet, they're the ones telling us what to do. That's a problem. That ain't democracy. Caveman, look, my take on Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett's my congressman. I like what Tim Burchett's doing. I have yet to find anything he has voted on that I disagree with him. He really strikes me as another I'd say MAGA Republican would be the best way to put it, but he seems to be right in line with the hardcore conservative. I'm not saying far right. I'm saying hardcore conservative beliefs that Tennessee has. I mean, he's voting the way his constituents are. I mean, there are very, very few Democrats in our area. Okay. I mean, I think in our county, Trump got 94% of the vote last time. Okay. and Burchett's district runs some of Knoxville and our county, and maybe there's a little bit more. You know how they draw lines are all crazy because we just got redistricted too. So now Chuck Fleischman, who's now in the second district, used to be ours. Chuck Fleischman is the biggest piece of shit in Congress there is. I mean, he is a rhino till the day is done. And I mean, he's the one, if he was running, I would have run against him. I would have got my ass handed to me, but I'd have sat there and made him look like a fool. Because he is. Jesse Moya, yes, AEP here in, I'm going to take a guess that's Corpus Christi, saying get ready for power outage. Stores are out of water. Yeah, it's, yeah, I mean, they warned Texas a week ago, and I was trying to tell you the story. And so I'm hoping everybody listened and have got themselves situated and prepared for, okay, the power's going to go out. How are we going to stay warm? Let's see. Cold climate prepper, get my ham. I'm working on it. I want, like I said when I was talking about it last time, I said the thing is, I'm not trying to study so I can pass the test. I mean, I could do that in a day. That's not a big deal. You put everything in short-term memory, take the test, remember it, and forget it all. I'm trying to get to the point where I know everything in there by the back of my hand so that I can actually show other people how to do it in an SHTF situation and do it correctly. That's how I like to learn to do things. I don't like to learn just so I can pass a test. I like to learn it so I can know it. Stand strong. Saw a solar generator, 1200 watt, 920 kilowatt capacity, or 920 watt capacity. Will it work on a 1200 watt space heater? No, you'll trip that every time. Because the surge in that will go right past everything that you need and it'll never fire up. So no, that would not work. Von Mousetrap, I know it's supposed to be cold in Texas. Let's hope the Rio Grande doesn't freeze. Hey, if we can't build a wall, maybe we can build igloos. So, all right. Kathy Cooper, what kind of dogs do I have? I've got a Corgi and a Border Collie. Vicky Savage says beans can be sprouted for fresh greens. Yes, they can. The only problem is that's a real waste in resources because I don't have them over here. First off, bean seeds aren't cheap, okay? And if you grow enough of your own, I mean, I grew enough white beans last year to fill a quart mason jar full of seed. That was my plan. I put an 8x16 garden in, grew a bunch of beans. It was all intended to go to seed so I could have enough plants. So this year I'm going to have a big bean garden of white beans and black beans, and I grew my own seed for it. That would be an awful waste to put those all in a little cup and get, bean sprouts like that. Yes, you can do it, but I'd find something that was much more economical to make sprouts from. Let's see. Gray Hat, can we see your pups one day? They've been in multiple videos. I mean, they've been in the dog food video, of course. Daffy's been in probably more than Copper is, because when I do the gardening video, she's always out with me, so she's been out there. Deborah Jones, what are my thoughts on building a Walipini? A Walipini is a really good idea if you have the space, the correct terrain, the right soil, and I don't mean soil to grow in, I mean soil that you can dig through, and you can situate it in at the right direction. A Walipini is great. If you guys don't know what a Walipini is, it's basically a buried greenhouse. So it's a uh, geothermal greenhouse. I mean, you're literally putting a greenhouse top from the ground to maybe a couple of feet above the ground, and your entire garden is 8 feet underground. So you are working at a constant temperature underground, getting that sunlight coming in. So you could plant all year long. It's a great idea. I've never seen one in action, okay, but I've seen many videos uh, on places that have done it for years. And if it's possible to do it, do it. The problem is it's not easy. I mean, for me to do that, I'd have to have a backhoe out here to dig that hole, uh, because there's no way in the world I could dig anything. I can't dig a foot into the ground here with the shovel. Okay. Uh, but if you want to check out what a Walipini is, there's plenty of videos on YouTube about it. It's a pretty cool idea. And if anything, it is something that for an SHTF situation would be a little easier to disguise. So you think about that, it's a little more hidden. Plus, having something underground like that would also be a good defensive position. And it's 10 o'clock. First time I look at the clock and we're at the end. All right. Well, I guess that's it, guys. That's another fast hour. We did that one again. So we'll have a good one. Stay warm. We'll see you tomorrow. Pinball out.